Hi, everyone. This is Aaron, and you are listening to Walnut Commentary, the official podcast for the pastors and leaders of FCBC Walnut. For the first time, we'll be releasing a free flowing conversation recorded with minimal preparation and produced with very little editing. I spoke with Pastor Hanley Liu, the English pastor of FCBC Walnut, and we talked about a blog article he wrote, a panel he will be participating in, and how being a father has changed his life and ministry. Thanks for listening. I read a blog on this thing called the Sola Network, and it was by you. What is that?
Well, Sola got in contact with me, and Sola is a network. Maybe we can say it's an Asian American led smaller version of Gospel Coalition, but I do think they're doing a lot of pioneering work that organizations like Gospel Coalition can learn from. It's a group of, I don't want to misrepresent them now,
Sure.
but it's a group of primarily Korean American, gospel centered, distinctively I think gospel centric and reformed group of leaders who then pull together churches, and they are for the local church. They're focused on equipping and empowering and mentoring the younger generation. And recently, one of their founders and one of their leaders, just a godly leader among Asian Americans, Pastor Steve Chang. I got connected with him through Pastor Ben Pon from Anchor Community Church, and Pastor Steve and I had lunch, and he's asking and he's looking for Chinese American representation, right? Like, so to see what's going on in the Chinese American church so that we can contribute to the conversation. And I think they, even though it's focused on Asian Americans, I do believe their mission and their reach can go beyond just the walls of the Asian church. So you have in Sola their readership, the younger generation, maybe, I don't know, I'm guessing, under 40, mostly either they're in a Korean American church or a multi-ethnic Asian American church, or they're in an immigrant church like ours. That's English ministry. That's kind of what it is.
It sounds really cool, man. They asked you to write an article. Is that how it worked out? They asked you to do this, or
um, me, I don't really like to put my stuff out there, but I think Pastor Steve Chang and I think a few others. Today I had lunch with a really solid brother, met him for the first time, Pastor Harold Kim from Christ Central. Really like-minded, gospel-centric, reformed brother. And what it is more, maybe Pastor Steve challenged not just me, but I think other Chinese American leaders to break out of that Asian American mold of not wanting to put ourselves out there and saying, hey, look, you're not creating a platform for yourself, but think of the church, specifically our local church that God has called us to, FCBC Walnut, what God is doing. And think of other Chinese American, Korean American, Asian American, and other churches that can learn from our context. And let's really speak up. Let's be a little more bold. Let's not apologize about our identity as Christians and the context that He's called us to. And so for us, it's anything from speaking up to writing blogs and just getting the voice out there just to influence the next generation. And I think when he talked about FCBC Walnut and saying, hey, he would like other churches and I guess their readership to hear and see about the encouraging things that God is doing at FCBC, then I think that tugged at my heart, just to say, hey, if our vision as a local church is to be a vibrant church that reproduces vibrant churches locally and globally, then part of being vibrant, I guess, is if the Lord opens the door or creates the platform for us to be willing to say, hey, this is what our God is sovereignly doing in our church, through our people, through our vision. And so that got me, challenged me to say, okay. And I do think there is an intellectual stewardship for certain pastors. Maybe most people in FCBC may or may not know, but the church has supported most of my theological education. Meaning this particular church, First Chinese Baptist Church, funded me through my Master of Divinity program, at Talbot, as a seminarian. And I think because I've been here long enough, funded me through the Doctor of Ministry program. And if you're going to be involved in academics, if you're going to write papers, I do think there is a stewardship and responsibility to come to the table on theological issues, practical theology. And so all of those little reminders and those little challenges probably pushed me to say, okay, you know, why don't you say something about FCBC? So that's what it is. But.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you met the challenge, and I'm also glad that you're not just like talking about vague generalities of the Asian American church, but your article actually did point back to FCBC. So you still are repping our church. And I've known you as a speaker, but I do know that you're a gifted writer too, man. And I think it shows in the article. I'm glad that it's out there, man. I think you did a good job.
No, there was an editor. There was an editor, a sister, Hannah, from All Nations Church, and she corrected and edited it. So all credit.
Thanks Hannah for making it look good. Thanks Hannah for making him look good. But no, man, I'm still glad that you're out there, man. I think it's a timely. I don't know, a timely time. I don't know. I think it's a good time to get out there, man. I mean, are you scared? Are you nervous putting yourself out there, or are you bold and courageous?
I think it's a matter of stewardship. Like I often say. What am I doing with my time? I think if we as pastors can be faithful to prepare expository sermons, to shepherd the flock, to administrate or take care of whatever we need to take care of, and with whatever time is left over, if there is an opportunity to do something that at least relates back to the church or the local church, or in particular FCBC Walnut, then it's probably our responsibility to do so. But I think what I'm trying to learn through this process, because we're always wanting to be learners.
Of course.
We're always wanting to improve, is that most of my writing is because I had to, in the past, most of my writing besides sermons consisted of academic writing, longer sentences, footnoting, research.
Right.
But really, if you're talking about practical theology applied, and writing to the people we minister to, and how they're consuming their literature is on their phones.
Yeah.
There are on their phones, their mobile devices. Then what Sola kind of introduced to me, I mean, it's the first time I've seen something like this, is a rubric and some guidelines for writing for a digital audience.
No, that's
keeping
huge,
things
man.
short and things. Right. And that was new to me, being, I don't know, older guy, right? Like that's new to me. So I saw this as another challenge, as another opportunity to learn. And if we can continue to learn to bless every subsequent generation, then that's how the baton keeps getting passed on.
Yeah, man. You are going to be on their panel next Thursday, September 27th. So, okay, what is that? Are you just going to is it just a Q&A thing? Like, do you have something prepared, or are you just going to go in like guns blazing? Like, what's the deal with that?
Well, first, it's humbling to sit next to, Pastor Steve Chang and Pastor Kim Kira on a panel. I do go in there thinking I do got to represent a segment, right? Because, both of the other panelists, they're in independent churches, meaning it's all English and it's Asian American, and those are great, healthy, dynamic expressions, right? So I probably am the only one on that panel that's still in an immigrant church, or a church with an immigrant congregation, or a couple immigrant congregations, right? Like a language congregation, Chinese, Korean, whatever it is. And then I think then, even more specifically, I'm probably representing Chinese Americans in a bi or trilingual context.
Right. Yeah. No,
so I think there. So I think going in there, each of us will probably share a tiny bit about our story, our church, our context, what the Lord has done, is doing. I'm sure there'll be some other questions that the host will be asking.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes.
Of course.
From those who are organizing. So they're going to do a great job of I think asking each of us specifically something that we can speak to. So they'll do that, and and then some other questions on the future of Asian American ministry, what we would say to younger pastors or the next generation of leaders.
No, I'm excited. I'm excited to see how that goes, man. I'm sorry that I can't be there in person, but you said there will be like videos and stuff, so I'll be sure to check it out, man. I listen to everything.
I don't know. Someone's going to record it, but it's okay. I mean,
I'll be praying for you, though, man. I'll be praying for you.
Oh, no, appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, you haven't been preaching in English. Pastor Albert has been doing like a Nehemiah series. So what do you like with all this extra time? I'm assuming that you have more time now. Is that true? And what are you doing with that time?
Well, I think there's a lot of internal projects that we needed to take care of.
Okay.
At church, that not having to deliver the Sunday sermon for an entire month gives me more time to focus on the sermons and in transit a little bit, which is our young adult ministry.
Yeah.
Focus on building up our community groups, our missional outreach, working internally on staff structure, and then doing things like writing a blog or writing that article, that piece, carving out time to read.
Yeah. I mean, do you appreciate the extra time, or do you miss the pulpit?
I do appreciate the time. I think that it's good for the English congregation to hear the senior pastor really put his heart on the pulpit and really communicate to us. I think sometimes, given that there's three lead pastors, language lead pastors, and our senior pastor gets to come in, Pastor Albert gets to come in, once a month, and I think that message, there's only so much he can say. So I think I really do think that, giving him more than 1 week allows him just to unfold his heart and allows our people to see where he's coming from. And I've been blessed. And it's always good to have a break. I think maybe like 5 years ago, I probably would be like, yeah, I want to preach every single week. But I think shared ministry allows us to run the race longer.
I have seen you change in that regard where, I don't think you're necessarily as eager to get in the pulpit as you were before. I mean, you're not that type of guy. I mean, even before you weren't like bad or anything, I'm just saying that like you're definitely more like being part of the team and just, really, really trying to do ministry from other angles too. And I appreciate that, man. I know there's a lot of stuff that happens that I don't even know about. And so just hearing about all the other stuff you got your finger on, it's good because obviously you're a busy guy.
Well, not as busy as some other people, so.
Do you think that being a father has changed your approach to ministry?
Yes and no. I think yes, logistically and practically.
Oh, sure.
Pragmatically.
Yeah.
I've had to delegate more and learn to use the people resources that God gives you. So maybe before where I could say, hey, I could delegate this, but why don't I just do it myself? Because, it's easier. I can do it and it might turn out the way that I like more, because I'm doing it. I've learned that with children or with Haley, with the daughter, just have to give up more of the things that are not primary responsibilities, and then also schedule better, to really, so I don't think I could be, unless I absolutely need to, I shouldn't be consuming 15 exegetical commentaries to unpack one sentence or clause, right? I mean, unless I really, really need to, things like that, everything needs to be a lot more efficient, but still faithful.
Right.
We still need to be faithful. And so including meetings and emails and things like that. So I think pragmatically it's changed me. I mean, when it comes to the heart, I think understanding more personally the heart of a father, I think has helped me to understand doctrines like, and this is the nerdy side, right? The doctrines like the doctrine of adoption, Galatians and how we cry, Abba, Father, and especially, that we are truly not in control, right? I mean, I think as, when you're looking at a child, you're looking at a child's heart, there's only so much you can do. And she's so young, so even praying for her salvation every day, I mean, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
And you just hope that you keep spurring on, you keep pushing, you have to, model Christ likeness and the gospel at home, but you're basically begging the Lord that in His timing He would save your children, right? And so there's this whole, you just can't control everything. And so that has been sobering. Mentally, you read about this and you kind of know it in your head.
Right. Yeah.
I think being a father kind of, you understand that. And I think, again, theologically, just to fathom, I can't fathom how God the Father, I didn't mean for this to get theological, but, I can't imagine God the Father putting His Son, right, His child, crucifying Him on the cross for sinners to redeem people who aren't going to get it. And I believe in a definite atonement. So, those whom He died for are going to be saved, right? But
of course,
I just can't fathom the patience, the love, the immense mercy and grace that the Lord has for us. And I think being a father just kind of amplifies that.
Of course. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good word, man. Yeah. No, I mean, I see it come out in your sermon examples. You're not like always talking about your daughter, but I do see it come out. And when I see that side come out, man, I do think that, yeah, there's a little bit of extra weight because you're living the experience, and those same emotions are the same emotions and feelings that the Bible tells us about God, man. And so, yeah, it is a lot more relatable, and it makes it a little bit more real for us in the congregation. What about with Meryl, man? Has your relationship with Meryl changed at all?
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously, we have to work harder. I mean, as if we weren't working hard enough on communication, right?
Always. Sure. Yeah. No. Yeah. For everybody, man. For everybody.
And then we have to make sure that we're cultivating a romantic, whatever you want to call it, like the building the marriage up itself for the sake of the marriage, and not just everything is centered on the child.
Right. No, that's huge.
It's too easy. It's too easy for us both to idolize our daughter. So I think definitely, I mean, communication is probably something that every married couple has to go through. But, we've had our share of having to work through healthy conflict resolution with all the changes to the family. And so, yes, we have to keep fighting to cultivate a healthy and a growing marriage. Yeah, we have to fight to carve in prayer time, it's because you're tired. So it's too easy to just say, okay, forget it. Let's not pray together. Let's go to sleep, but really to have that time together is something that we have to have greater discipline for.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, dude, thanks for sharing that wisdom with me, man. And thanks for that dose of reality too, man. I mean, it's just, these are different times, man, but they're definitely exciting. And I will be praying for you as you get ready for that panel and as you do all this other ministry stuff, man. Thanks for being on this podcast, I guess, our first free-flowing conversation.
Sure, of course.
Hey, what have you been reading recently? Last question. What have you been reading recently?
Oh, what have I been reading? I've to be honest, I don't think I've read it. How long? I don't know if recently I've just read one book cover to cover. I'm dabbling in David Paulison's Good Angry. It's funny that after we did our emotions series for young adults, there were some sermons that involved the affection. I don't know why, but I was dabbling, rereading my highlights in Jonathan Edwards' Religious Affections.
Oh, okay, for sure.
So that's on my table right now. I read Matt Perman's Unstuck.
Oh yeah,
there's a bigger title to that. I mean, that's looking at that, and that caused me to go back to his first book, What's Best Next, and look at that again. And then recently, I've just been consuming more literature on in the blogosphere, which is not really what I'm used to. So honestly, I'm not as sharp as other guys, off the cuff, so I need to be prepared. So even in trying to think through things for writing this recent piece, or even in preparing to engage people on Asian American issues, some of the stuff that I shared on my Facebook page, I mean, I've been reading articles like that and just actually fishing back for some of these articles that I might have seen somewhere along the way of what Chinese churches are actually going through. And everything from academic, semi-academic pieces to short little blogs, but just trying to be prepared.
No, man, I think that's good, dude.
Yeah.
Hey, man, thank you for doing this again. I'll let you go, and we'll do it again sometime, man.
For sure. Thank you. Thanks for having me on your famous podcast.
I don't know about famous, man, but maybe after you're on it, then maybe we'll become famous now since you're
No. It's gonna hurt you. It's gonna be like, well, why did you get the old guy? Why did you get the old guy? Yeah.
Thanks, Pastor Hanley, and thank you everyone for listening to our podcast here at FCBC Walnut. For more episodes, you can visit our archive at walnutcommentary.tumblr.com, and you can subscribe to our official podcast feed on YouTube, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player. Just search for FCBC Walnut. For more info about our church, visit us online at fcbcwalnut.org. Thanks. See you soon.